Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Career Crush Q&A. I'm Emily Aries, the founder and CEO of Bossed Up, and we're here to help you craft a happy, healthy, and sustainable career path. And on that note, I'm so excited to have with me today Gloria Chan, a women's leadership coach who focuses on diversity and women of color embracing their leadership to change the world. She's coming out with an amazing new book that we're going to hear lots more about, and has such an awesome array of ways that she's helping other women be the boss of their lives and boss it up in their career path. So Gloria, thank you so much for being here.
Emily, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited because you've been doing such amazing work in this area of really empowering women. So I'm happy to help and share resources with your audience however I can.
Love it, love it, love it. And I love hearing such great things in DC. You're a fellow DCer right now, originally from New York, but here in the nation's capital, I've heard great things about your work. So it's just so great to team up in helping boss women do what we do best. So tell us, this is Career Crush, right? So our Career Crush series every Wednesday afternoon, we really unpack and sort of peel back the layers behind how exceptional women who've crafted those careers with passion and purpose got to where they are today. So while I know you help women figure that whole thing out, first we want to hear from you. How did you find yourself in this line of work? I know you've got an extensive background in corporate leadership and government. I'd love to hear more about how you found yourself starting your own company and helping other people in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in an incredibly diverse community in New York City, actually in a housing project. It was crazy diverse with immigrant communities, Black communities, white communities, all sorts of colors of people. And I really, came out of that space with a deep passion to empower minority communities, communities of color. And a lot of times when women, or men and women alike, when we're so passionate about a policy area or something about the world that we want to change, we really focus just on that outcome as opposed to thinking about how it is that we want to interact with that world. And so, growing up with that passion, I thought, as a student of the civil rights movement, I would go to law school, I would make change that way, I would go to government, and really try to represent these communities at the highest levels, the highest decision-making tables that I could, without really asking myself, what is really my purpose, my passion, my spark, my area, my gifts.
Right.
And so when I finally asked that, I became a career coach working in these communities and inspiring leaders to really follow their path.
That's amazing. And not before getting a whole lot of accolades along the way, right? So you are a graduate of the Harvard school system, is that right?
Harvard Law School, yeah.
Harvard Law School, so no big deal, right? I think that transformation just speaks to your grit, your hard work, and sort of writing your own come-up story and following the rules that have been given to us. And I think a lot of us women, especially women in the Bossed Up community, are pretty damn good at working hard and busting our butts for other people, right? And we're pretty good at saying, give me a syllabus, I'll master it, I'll rock it, I'll put my nose to the grindstone. And then at some point, maybe for some of us, if it hasn't happened already, it might happen soon. We look up and we say, what the hell am I doing this for? When is that performance part of my life over? And when can I actually step into asking those tough questions? And hopefully people don't have to experience the total and complete burnout that I experienced to get there, but some of us do. So it's just so encouraging to hear from someone who you've made such transformation in your own life, and then to sort of not walk away from it all, but really, I mean, you've been a leader in the nonprofit sector and in government with the Asian and Pacific American Committee, is that right, in the U.S.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the Harvard Law School thing is no small feat. And, coming up into government, I was executive director of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. I was president and CEO of APACS, the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. So like you said, it's like a lot of us kind of achievers and like motivated folks out there will do everything right. We'll climb whatever ladder it is that we think we're climbing. And like you, I think I shared with you before when we first met, my moment was really a totally dysfunctional relationship, right? And for a lot of us out there, if we don't do the work of aligning ourselves with our values, something will hit us, and whether it's burnout or a relationship or whatever it is. But like you said, we don't have to wait for those traumatic moments to really recalibrate and ask those tough questions.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I want to just speak to our viewers who are just tuning in. Thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself today. After all, that's why you're tuning in here, right? Is to really invest in your career path or your life or your sustainability, whatever that might be. And I want to urge you to weigh in throughout the broadcast. I might be looking off to the side here a little bit because I'm tweeting some of these great words of wisdom from Gloria. You can tweet at us at BossedUpORG and at Gloria S. Chan to ask questions in real time. So if there's anything we're talking about or you want to ask Gloria a question, just give us a shout out on Twitter now and we'll make it happen. So Gloria, what is this new book of yours? What is it all about, and who is it for, and what are you hoping it'll do for folks?
Yeah, so the book is called Colorful Leadership. I have a copy right here. Colorful Leadership: How Women of Color Transform Our World. And it's, it is a book written by a woman of color for women of color, really to embrace not only the impact that we're meant to make, but the impact that we, not just outcome, but how we're about to go about doing it. It is incredible, as Emily, I'm sure, will let you know, it's incredibly vulnerable and sometimes terrifying work to do what it is that we're doing, walking the path that we're meant to walk. And it's asking the really hard questions. So what the book really walks us through is all the things that might get in the way, all the fears, all the self-sabotaging, as well as some of the visioning work, and sharing both stories of my own as well as vignettes from clients, of course, shared anonymously, to really inspire you along your path, and also provide a lot of journaling prompts and exercises that will help you along the way.
Awesome. And I love your focus on women of color in particular. I think here at Bossed Up, especially being a mostly white lady at the helm here, we've been really deliberate since the very start of making sure that we slice into that intersectional feminist piece with everything we do. And so I think the part of that starts with being candid and honest about the reality is that life's tough, right? This world is not fair. This world's full of injustice. And there's more injustice facing not just women, but women of color. And so I think when we whitewash that, or when we pretend like all women have the same experiences, we really do a disservice to the diversity and the education and sort of ignorance quelling, or ignorance sort of squashing education that we can all gain from talking honestly about why women of color and how women of color are at a greater disadvantage and how we can change that. So I'm curious to hear more about your focus, women of color in particular. It's always interesting to me, and you can take this question wherever you want it, but it's always interesting to me how we balance that advice around self-sabotage with the fact that the world is actually a pretty messed up place, right? Like, maybe it's not just you and your brain. Maybe we don't need to lean in. Maybe we do need big structural governmental policy change, which I know you value. So I wonder, like, how do you tackle that? What do you think about all of that, especially when it comes to diversity and leadership?
This is like such a huge question that we could like write entire books about, multiple books about. And I would say to start that it is true that a lot of what we experience and how we, the challenges that we come up against are very much shaped by where we were born, what we look like, and how society perceives us and thinks of us and really imagines us. And so the work that I do with women of color in particular, and a lot of the teachings, you know, in my book, Colorful Leadership, are totally universal, right? Like men have read this book, white people have read this book and said it has been equally fulfilling and meaningful. But the reason why I write for women of color is because in order for all of us to do the work of like kind of unpacking this systemic change and social change, is that we have to do it within ourselves. If we continuously point outwards and say it's their fault, it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault, we kind of get stuck in a place of just pointing outwards instead of really developing the sense of empowerment that, okay, the world out there looks a certain way and looks at me a certain way, but it's not gonna touch who I am at the core.
Right.
And it's not gonna throw me off, and I can be empowered in any room. And of course, I talk this, but I still continuously work on this myself. When I'm in like mainstream, you know, mostly white, mostly affluent places, I still feel out of place. So it's something that we have to work on all the time. But when I get there, I know that it's a space where I can be empowered and nobody else can make me feel small. Only I can. So we were born a certain way and we were taught a certain way, but only we have the, you know, the power to take that power back.
Whew. That is some good stuff, Gloria. My God. And you remind me of another amazing Career Crush guest of ours from last fall, actually, Tiffany Dufu of the Lavo League. I think she's the chief something officer, something interesting, like COO, but it's interesting. The Chief Inspiration Officer or something like that at the Lavo League, L-E-V-O. She just wrote a book called Drop the Ball, and in her interview, I asked her a similar question, and she said, you know, it's up to me to take ownership over the world as it is and say, I can actually do something about that, right? It's not fair, it's not right, but I have some power over how I manipulate other people's impressions of myself. And the way she put it was so charitable. She said, it's my job to make you feel comfortable with me as a leader.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that takes like just an exceptional amount of
ovaries.
Yeah, sure, totally. And also like forgiveness and sort of acceptance and empathy and just like of seeing each other as flawed human beings. We all are biased in our own way.
Yeah.
So I just
want to add to that and say that how we interface with any of these systems, we are totally at choice, right? So if you don't want to be the sole minority at a huge organization and constantly having to empower yourself and make other people comfortable, you don't have to do that. You know, you might want a persona and be at the outskirts, or you might want to be the grassroots organizer, or you might want to only surround yourself with marginalized communities and empower those folks. So how you go about this is you're totally at choice. You don't have to be, you know, upset or frustrated or angry every single day. You can actually choose something else if you don't want to do that.
I think that's especially timely with just like the world, the news, the way the media covers things, and also just there is a lot of injustice in this world. That's why we got into this work. So thank you for sort of shedding some hope on this. So I feel like we could talk philosophy and intersectional feminism all day, but I do want to get to some practical, tactical career advice, right? So our bosses are here because they're navigating career transition, or maybe you're striving for that promotion at work, or maybe you're just thinking about a totally different career field altogether. As someone who's done all of the above, right, who's tackled it all and gone on to start your own business, coaching women and working with women, what have been some of the biggest breakthroughs? Or, you know, where do you think women should start? What advice or resources do you have that you found to be most helpful?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is not being attached to any particular outcome. Not being worried that we don't have an outcome or a vision to move towards. I think so much of this path is being really comfortable with the unknown and being able to really piece together the puzzle that we are. Like, it's almost deciphering a mystery or going through life as if it's truly something that's unraveling before our very eyes. And the way to do that is to really step into the unknown and embrace it. And I always tell people, you know, look for your passions, look for the things that turn you on, that light your spirit up. And if you don't know what those are, start with curiosity. Like, what piques your interest throughout the day? And sometimes, I know, especially, you know, we are all creative souls and spirits at the end of the day somehow. And I know that sometimes that's terrifying. Like, what do you mean you want me to look into music or look? But I have a really funny story to tell that, you know, when I was thinking about leaving politics after 7 years of working in Asian American advocacy, I wanted to drop everything and be a music manager. And I literally changed my resume, moved all the creative stuff up top, and started handing out my resume to music management companies saying, I will intern, I will do anything it takes. And what came out of that was that I realized that I didn't want to be in another world of politics. I didn't want to learn Los Angeles or help people land music deals or record deals. And when I finally was asked, I was coached, you know, I was asked by my coach, so Gloria, what about music management makes you so like passionate? And I said, well, I want to help people find their message, connect with their voice, and be like brave enough to bring it out into the world. And so she asked me, Gloria, does that mean you want to be a coach? And I remember that night, like, I couldn't go to sleep. I was like so excited. I was envisioning myself, you know, being at coaching conferences, speaking on diversity panels and all of that good stuff. And here I am, you know, 4 years later. I would not have imagined that I would have my own successful coaching business for women of color. But I also am a founding partner with, you know, with Dr. Tawana Freeman. We just started Coach Diversity Institute, doing all of this brave, cutting edge new work in the space of diversity and coaching. So you never know where stuff is going to take you. But because I followed that one spark of music, it landed me here.
That is so great. I also, I'm thinking of something I see a lot in the women we work with, that is what Kathy Caprino, another great coach in the space, has, I think, called the pendulum swing. When we are finally fed up with a certain industry, or we've just been around too long, or we haven't had enough change in our lives, we can tend to swing in this opposite, you know, direction so dramatically that our first instinct is like, and now it's time for something completely different. And in the first YouTube video I did this year called How to Make 2016 Your Career Leap Year, I sort of laid out a couple of like 3 first steps to take that are low-risk experimental ways to not drop everything and move to Los Angeles, which I'm glad you didn't do, right?
Yes, totally.
Because those could be really costly things. Yes. Those are learning opportunities. Yes. But just remember, for those out there, like, if you are ready for a change, being curious about what piques your interest is so smart. But you don't need to swing all the way, right? You can find that sort of happy medium that works for you. Very cool. What else comes to mind in terms of the resources or programs or things that you found to be most helpful for your client?
Yeah, so I'm actually about to launch a new offering in August. It's called Shine, and I'll be helping, you know, men and women alike create their authentic career path, make powerful impact, and doing what they love. So I definitely want to make this offering open to you know, your audience at Bossed Up, and you can sign up for my newsletter on www.gloriaschan.com, and you'll get all the updates.
Awesome. And what about the program, or what are some of the actionable pieces that we can start right away? Like, what do you think? Especially, so, I guess, to narrow it down a little bit, and feel free to jump around if you want, but can we talk about impact for a second?
Yeah.
Because I feel like so many of us, especially millennials, of which this audience is primarily made up of, we do want purpose-driven work. We want to at least, like, not totally ethically disagree with what we're doing every day. And sometimes we get meaning and purpose from our extracurriculars, which is totally fair. But I think there is, and I'd be curious to what you think about this, there is an underlying privilege to seeking out purpose-driven work, especially with someone who, you know I come from a family that was like really just focused on making ends meet for a long time. So when I was like, I'm going to quit my steady job as a high-paid political consultant, and start this purpose-driven company, they were like, what? Why? And so I just wonder how we get out of the scarcity mindset, or that sort of like, I just need to survive, versus looking at bigger, bigger sort of higher order satisfaction in life through our purpose-driven work. I don't know. What do you think about that? I think it's
I would say that, you know, if we are in a space where we have the means and resources to do purpose-driven work, I think the world needs more of that and not less of it. So there's really no point in shaming yourself into, you know, kind of living a mogul life if you know, the whole world is trending towards the other way. So there's no sense in guilting yourself back into the past. And just because you do purpose-driven work doesn't mean that you can't stay aligned with your other values. You know, if you have the value of staying close to, you know, working in grassroots communities or serving people who don't have that liberty, you can do so. So just as an example, at Coach Diversity Institute, we've done trainings with social workers in some of DC's poorest neighborhoods. So there's no reason that just because you're doing purpose-driven, higher order work that you need to leave all of your other values behind.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Thanks for diving in with me on such juicy questions. I just think the work you're doing is so like spot on. It's very, very cool. So where can we learn more? So you mentioned your website, gloriaschan.com. What else is on the horizon? I know that I've got a ticket to your upcoming book launch party here in DC.
Yes.
Which is almost a week away now, right?
Yes, almost a week away. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Yeah. Yes, so July 13th, 6 p.m. here in DC, Mazda 14. You can get your tickets. Here's the website, is squareup.com/store/Gloria S. Chan. So grab your tickets. It's going to be great networking, really fun, inspiring tips. You'll get a copy of the book as well. So Shine, as I mentioned, is coming up as well. You'll learn about how to really shed the mask, harness your hero's journey, really connect with the power within you, let go of any, you know, self-doubt, learn how to work with self-doubt and fear. And then finally think about visioning, you know, like what does your thought leadership look like in the future? What kind of tribe do you want to cultivate? What are the people that you want to intentionally connect with instead of just like kind of doing, you know, business networking just to collect cards for the heck of it. So like it's really getting intentional about all of that work. And again, you can reach all of that information through my website. And we'll be rolling it out shortly.
Awesome. And I'm just picking up on Twitter here. We've got Monica tuning in saying she's proud to be part of the Coach Diversity Network and learning through thoughtful coaches like you and Tawana Freeman. And Vega is saying she's always learning this, and this being the world, your quote, the world sees me a certain way, but it's not going to touch who I am at my core, how I see myself, that piece of self-doubt and self-worth. She says, always learning this and trying to live it, the balance between what is out there and who I am, which I think is such a good point. Maybe something to end on. How do you, especially in the big risks you've taken, the big leaps you've made along your career, what are some of the practices that you've put into place that can help you keep that self-identity and worth intact? Because you said earlier, you know, this is something you still struggle with, and I think we all do, right? How do you mitigate that sense of other people's judgments or things not going perfectly your way, totally impacting your sense of self-worth and identity?
Yeah, I think, you know, like I said before, if you walk this path, we are so conditioned as human beings not to be comfortable with this. And so, you know, like I said before, it's a constant journey, constant growth. So I feel like once I've experienced one level of growth, there's another layer that I need to overcome and yet another layer. And so I think for me, a lot of it is actually spiritual. It's knowing that there's a part of me that knows all the answers, knows that I can tap into infinite wisdom. You know, there's a part of me that's always saying, you're fine, you're okay, this is fine. You know, if you grow in that way, you're safe, it's all good. And I think the biggest tip for me, you know, we haven't talked about this during this entire call, but so much of my tapping into inner wisdom is really through the body. It's like knowing, you know, which parts of my body are holding tension, which parts are, you know, teaching me a different way. How can I really relax and expand into it? So I would say that's definitely one area to explore is how can we empower our bodies? And I know that, you know, Emily Bossed Up and the Bossed Up community is all about like wellness and balance and staying connected with that, how powerful we are in our very bodies. So I think that's an incredibly important piece.
And like you mentioned earlier with your own relationship past, and I've got a similar unfortunate story there myself, is, you know, between the wellness piece and the relationship piece, I think we can all tap into our power, and that trickles right over.
Yeah.
When you're feeling physically powerful, when you're feeling emotionally supported, you're going to show up powerfully in what you're trying to do with your work.
Yeah, and I think the last tip I'd like to leave behind, it's a really practical thing, is this is how I grow. You know, how I figure out where's the next level of growth that I need to take myself is who am I judging, who gets on my nerves, who do I really disdain, and really doing that reflection time to say why is it that I hate these people? Why is it that they get on my nerves?
Really?
And if you go and dig deep, it's usually some part of you that you haven't yet developed that you really want to develop. So it's really a lot of the time jealousy or some other reason that's connected to your personal growth.
Such good advice. I love it. I want some more of it. So we'll all have to head over to gloriaschan.com for more. You can also catch up with our conversation on Twitter. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, hey, that's all good. You don't need to catch us live to follow up with us on Twitter at BossedUpORG or Emily Aries, whichever floats your boat. And tweet directly at Gloria S. Chan. And finally, I want to say for those viewers who are tuning in and want a whole lot more of this kind of advice around career transition and training and services, check out Gloria's amazing array of products and services, and also consider coming to Bossed Up's flagship training program for women navigating career transition, Bossed Up Bootcamp. It's coming to DC and Boston later this year. We have a couple different dates coming up, so you can check them out at bossedup.org/bootcamp. It's a 2-day immersive training program where we tackle work, love, and wellness all in one weekend, and we'll have you leave there with a plan to make your boss life a reality. Thank you again, Gloria, for being here. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks so much, Emily, for all your work on behalf of women and bosses all around.
Yeah, likewise. Keep it up. And for those of you who want to keep up with us, follow that hashtag Career Crush on Twitter. Check us out on YouTube and Gloria on YouTube as well. We have these Career Crush series every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, and I hope you'll tune in for the next one. Until then, keep bossing, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.